This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
And now, your host, Kyle Yeomans.
Today is January 14th, 2025, and we are officially 100 days away from the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The countdown begins and continues fast and furious from this point forward as we welcome you into the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. We've got Zach Wolchuk, Brian Broaddus, Nick Harris, Tommy Yarish. I'm Kyle Yeomans as we welcome you in. We've also got breaking news from yesterday.
What?
After the show was recorded, within minutes of the show being recorded, then the news finally broke that Mike McCarthy is out as Dallas Cowboys head coach. I even got a call from Zach Wolchuk. You were like in the car on your way back to the radio station.
What just happened? Is this real?
Is this real?
Kyle, is this real?
Can you confirm this? Is this what's happening? It was indeed real, and it did indeed happen. So where does that leave us, Brian, whenever it comes to the NFL Draft? How much does that affect things now that McCarthy is no longer expected to be the head coach?
Yeah, they've now you turn into the mode of, okay, you have an idea maybe who the next coach will be. And as a staff, then you have to go back and then look at these players that I'm not saying rejected, but maybe when the new staff comes in, you now have to turn around and then reevaluate players that you put like on a hold list. And so they won't be able to do anything until they figure out the scheme with the coach. So they're, now if the Jones family and Will wants to try and hire somebody similar scheme-wise, where it be 4-3-3-4, they can kind of adapt to that. They have an idea of, the guys that maybe are on their list, like, okay, we have to be ready for this. But what they're going to do is they have a bunch of players that they put what they call on hold. And so now you have to go back and they give these players a grade. Say they call them a 9. And so they give them a grade of a 9, and then all of a sudden they can go back and look at they could pull now with the way computers are, you can pull all your 9 grades and then say, okay, do any of these guys fit into the new scheme that we're going to run, or is the scheme similar to what we're going to run and we're not going to need? But they'll go back and they'll pull all those players. And once they pull all those players, then they can go back and determine. They don't completely get rid of players. They put them in that holding area, and then once they know that, okay, here's our scheme, let's look at all our players, this fits, let's bring guys back. So that's what they're going to be working on right now, is they're going to try and get an idea of what direction they're going to go. The front office will say, hey, here we are, this is likely who the guys we're talking to. We have to be ready for this scheme, and this scheme with these 3 guys. And so, that just puts the scouts really on hold right now. They continue to do the stuff, getting ready for the bowl games and stuff, but they just have to know now that they're going to have to potentially go and pull those 9 players, those 9 graded players, and bring them back to life for potential evaluation going forward.
So I would imagine it makes it more extensive too, because if you have a head coach in place, you have a system in place, and you look at a player, you can say, oh, that's not a guy for us. But it could be a guy where like, hey, that's a good player, but he's not a guy for us. Now you look at that player even more because you don't know who the head coach is going to be. You got to circle back on that guy. So I would imagine there's more work that would have to be done.
I've always thought that there was a way that these players, if they're not a guy, for example, the Steelers have had 3 head coaches in the last if you look at Chuck Noll,
the history
since the Steel
coach, yes, Cowher, Tomlin, they've had the same scheme throughout. So their scouts know exactly the type of player, so that doesn't change for them.
Baltimore's
another
recently.
one. Yeah, exactly. So, see, that's where you're at. It's not that they reject players. They'll do the grades. If they go to a school and they've got 10 players at Ohio State, they will evaluate all 10 players.
Yeah.
It's not like, well, wait a minute, this guy doesn't fit in our scheme and I'm not going to do him. I'm just going to immediately reject him. So they have grades on these guys or information on these guys. But like I say, they give them a not for us grade, which, could be, like I say, it could be a 9. You still a number. Say it's a 9. And that means not for us. Somebody else. That's somebody else. Well, now you have to go pull those guys. Mm-hmm. You just have to sort them all out. And it's like, okay, who are all the 9 guys that fit? Because what happens is you get coaches that are coming in here and they're going to like, we play with press corners, we want length. Or or a coach, no, we play a lot of off coverage. We don't need length. We need, we need this. Or, a special, hey, this team plays with, this scheme plays with plays with a nose tackle, a big nose. No, we don't need a big nose. We need more 3s. That's where they're at right now. They're going to have to determine which of these guys now that when they get to the evaluation side of it, like, and there'll be, and maybe there not be a ton of guys they bring back, but there'll be some guys that they have in that holding area. And, depending on scheme, they could very well bring back for evaluation.
When would you say is the last day that they need to make a hire before it just becomes too much work before the draft to go back and look at everybody?
Scouts are really used to adapting to whatever they have to do, and I say that is, I can't give you a specific date. I think that what you want to be able to do, though, is, we've seen this go to like all-star games. We've seen like coaches, get changed, and all of a sudden we're at the Senior Bowl, and now they're having to answer questions about interviews and stuff. And the Senior Bowl is a terrible place to go if you have to hire a coach.
I think that's going to be the reality.
Well,
that's what came in my mind was like, would you like it done by the Senior Bowl?
Well, what happens then is like, these guys here, they are trying to evaluate players, and then they're sitting there, and then everybody who's out of a gig, the Chicago Bear guys, everybody, the Jet guys, everybody that's out of a gig right now, and some coaches maybe trying to get back, are going up to general managers sitting in the stands. Hey, I'm Brian Broaddus. Oh yeah, hi Brian. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, hey, if you need, this is where I'm at. Da 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 da. And now you can't get away from that. You're spending the majority of your evaluation period shaking hands with Brian Broaddus and others that are trying to find jobs
instead of scouting your
You're now having to, and maybe you could set some things up at your hotel room. You get a suite and you set some things up and like meetings with this guy. But these general managers, if somebody's hunting a job, the Senior Bowl is a terrible place because you can't evaluate, but if you set things up and do it the right way, but you can get inundated with guys and gals hunting jobs and not be able to watch practice and not know what's going on. Like, what happened today? Well, yeah, okay. Well, God, I spent the first practice today watching and talking to people about jobs. It could be a very difficult thing to have to do.
It's the LinkedIn Senior Bowl.
Well, it really is. If you're Jerry Jones, and he does sit in the crowd.
Yeah, he does.
Jerry Jones is like every other scout that's there up in the stands with his guys and gals up there, and they're sitting up there watching. And, I'm not to say that everybody goes, hiking up there and sees Jerry Jones, but if you run into Jerry Jones, you're going to take an opportunity to shake his hand.
Yeah.
That's kind of how this thing works, especially if you're looking for a job.
So you talked about the adjusting that scouts would have to do.
Yeah.
There's no way that
I didn't answer the next question worth a damn, and I'm sorry.
No, you did. You're good.
But you said the Senior Bowl would be a significant portion, so that's an answer.
Yeah.
But the way they have to adjust, they're going to have to adjust on the fly, whatever the draft process brings.
Yeah.
Whether it's 2025 or 2024, whether you have a head coach or whether you don't. But there's just a significant jump in that direction. And Tommy, I'll allude this to you. What's the biggest adjustment now not having those head coaches to kind of lean back on and continue to have those conversations?
Well, I think it's kind of what Brian was alluding to in terms of now you got to figure out what your scheme's going to look like. And the scheme has so much to do with what you want to do in the draft, and especially what you want to do in free agency. We were talking about
and position coaches too.
Exactly. And we were talking about this yesterday on our emergency podcast after they had announced the decision to move on from Mike McCarthy. is, well, now you got to find alignment from your front office to your coaching staff to your roster. And I think that that's maybe part of the shortcomings with Mike McCarthy's time in Dallas is at times, especially in this 2024 season, there was an alignment between all three because there were certain pieces on the roster that Mike felt like maybe he didn't have control over, and that just can't happen if the Cowboys want to be serious playoff contenders. So when it comes to this draft, especially when you have a team that's been kind of lenient in what they want to do in free agency and lenient in how they want to spend their money in the cap sometimes, you've got to build through the draft. And so it's important to have, an idea of what you're looking for when that Senior Bowl comes around, because then even if you are having to shake hands and kiss babies at that point in time, like it's a job interview, at least you can have an idea of what you're looking for instead of, okay, we're going to look at those 9 guys and kind of reevaluate.
Sure. Yeah. See, this is too where you go real quick, if I could, Zach. This is where, having like Dan Quinn in place gets you Deron Bland.
Right.
Having that where Dan Quinn was a roll up his sleeves and go shoulder to shoulder with the scouts and go out and hit workouts and things like that. They didn't hit on all the guys. I mean, the Kentucky kids were an absolute disaster.
Kelvin Joseph.
Yeah.
Bohanna.
They've had some problems there.
Nation,
so, but that's going to happen along the way. But they did, you're not going to be able to, you have an idea when you have Dan Quinn and Joe Witt and others in the building, you're able to go and look at Deron Bland at Fresno and kind of figure out, okay, this guy is a guy that fits for us.
In Brian, since you've been around it, run a draft yourself and been around different organizations and see how they do it, is that more important here in Dallas? That continuity and the communication. It seems like the Cowboys more so than any other team might like that with their coaching staff, them being involved, them saying, hey, this is what I want in a player. This is what I'd like to do here. Whereas, maybe in Green Bay, maybe that was something with Mike McCarthy. He wasn't used to that in Green Bay.
Oh, no.
He comes to Dallas. Now Will McClay's like, hey, what do you think? And this is new. This is kind of a learning adjustment. Not every team operates that way, but for the Cowboys, might be more important than the other 31 teams to get that coaching staff in place so they can get that communication with the scouts on what they want, what they're looking for.
Yeah, these head coaches, Mike McCarthy did not, when he walked through the door in Dallas, he was like, whoa, I get to have a say in this? Teddy Thompson, they talk to the coaches and stuff like that, but not to the extent that a lot of teams do. And so, yeah, it's really this organization thrives on communication as far as having opinions. That's why I think some of the reasons why it takes them so long to make a decision, because they do solicit opinions. And that can kind of slow you down a little bit. But having that the head coach every when I worked in the scouting department here, whether you're Dave Campo or Chan Gailey or Bill Parcells, it doesn't matter. If you want to take an active role in personnel, the Joneses will allow you to do that as a head coach. I thought Jason Garrett was an outstanding evaluator. Yeah. I think a lot of it had to do with sitting with his dad every day.
Yeah.
Jim at times was very, very good. But I think that there's some coaches that have an eye for this, and there's some that are not. John Gruden is one of my best friends. John Gruden is a terrible evaluator. If he were to be the head coach here, my suggestion would be don't let John help you pick the players. But John's a good football coach. But there's certain guys that have the ability to evaluate from that coaching position.
So with McCarthy moving on, Nick, how does that affect Will McClay now? Because whether it was their relationship or the contract that in question moving forward, there was always a little question mark around Will McClay following this year and his future in Dallas. Does this affect it one way or the other at all?
I don't think necessarily, no. There's not a ton of GM openings this cycle, and even with the ones that are open, McClay's name hasn't been thrown around. So I think McClay was staying regardless. I think the long term of McClay is now probably a bigger question than the short term. And how much say does he have in the next choice? And if he's a big voice in that room, then that probably tells you the long term security of him here in Dallas. But if they bring in a guy and it's like, hey, we'll introduce you here to Doug Peterson or whoever, then I think that kind of tells you long term kind of what the vision is as far as Will McClay's role, not only in this building but front office specifically when it comes to making decisions.
No, that's interesting because when you look at the draft process, he's kind of the head honcho, right?
He does it. He's done a damn good job.
Good.
And we always talk about the triangle, the Joneses being on top of the triangle, the scouts being on one point, and then the coaches on the other point. And Will is in the middle of the storm, and he does a really good job of navigating. These coaches get mad at the scouts get mad at the Joneses are mad at the coaches. Will does a really good job of making sure that being mad stays in that room and it doesn't go outside that room. He's done an excellent job of putting together these boards. And you have to give him a lot of credit because there were some times where, and I love Tom Siskowski and, Jeff Ireland I worked with here. And, those guys, very qualified guys. But when you're not able to control all three parties, you're not going to have much success here. This is just the way that they operate. It's unique to any other organization you'll ever be in and ever work in.
So Mike McCarthy and the ripple effects will be felt until they fill in a potential suitor.
Yeah, but the scouts will be ready to go.
Yeah.
They've got their 9 guys. I'm calling them nine guys. The guys that they need to potentially bring back. And, like I say, the Joneses, Steven, will be communicating to Will, hey, these are the coaches we're looking at.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now it turns into let's meet about these schemes. What are these coaches? What are they going to like? And then you kind of try and get ahead of the game that way.
All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, I want to do a little accountability session. I want to talk about the 2024 draft.
No.
What did you get right? So we'll go good. We got good.
It was all wrong. Kyle.
And then what did you get
so
wrong
bad
in terms of your draft evaluation last year? And then if you have a comparison of this year's draft class, we could share that as well. Kind of similar prospects in the same area. When we come back, more Talking Cowboys right after this.
Here we go. Tyler from Dude Perfect here. Big news. We just dropped our very own Dude Perfect smoothie with Smoothie King.
We is strong. It's my recipe.
Technically, we all came up with it, Kobe?
I mean, you put a potato in yours.
I was experimenting.
Yeah, we picked up on that. Guys, this is fruit smoothie perfection. I even heard it recently quoted that it was food perfect.
Yeah, I was one that said that.
Oh, it was funny. It was punny.
Thank you. Anyways, get the Dude Perfect smoothie only at Smoothie King.
My smoothie.
Hi, Drew Pearson, former Dallas Cowboy and now Pro Football Hall of Famer here. If you're struggling with your vision and tired of those contacts and glasses, don't throw a Hail Mary. Go where I went. Laser Care Eye Center, the official LASIK partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Drew, thank you so much for trusting us with your vision correction procedure. At Laser Care Eye Center, we offer 6 different vision correction procedures to help patients see.
Check them out at dfweyes.com. Tell them Drew sent you. Hood hood.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Cowboys fans, when it comes to navigating the ever-changing world of tax, your business needs a partner it can trust to tackle even your biggest tax challenges. Ryan is the largest firm in the world dedicated exclusively to business taxes. Our team of tax professionals has local expertise in all areas of tax and can help you uncover savings opportunities you didn't know you had. Learn more about how Ryan can improve your overall corporate tax performance by visiting Ryan.com. Ryan, the official tax partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
The PBR World Finals are returning to AT&T Stadium in 2025. It all starts on May 16th with Kid Rock's Rockin' Rodeo. Then on May 17th and 18th, the finalists will compete in the 2025 PBR Championship. Let's rock and ride. Tickets are now on sale at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing provider of AT&T Stadium. Welcome back to the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. Not Talking Cowboys, as I alluded to going into the break. Gentlemen, sorry, we had Talking Cowboys this morning. It's available now on DallasCowboys.com. All right. I want to talk about accountability. Brian, you always have to learn from your mistakes. And you got to learn from your successes at the same time. I've got 2 guys, or I want 2 guys from you guys in the evaluation that you had last year that you got right, and I want 2 guys that you got wrong. And this could be either mean you were over-evaluating, under-evaluating, and then they ended up being one way or the other. Nick, I'll start with you because I know there are a couple names that Cowboys and Draft Show fans are waiting to hear.
Yeah, and there's one that I definitely have to jump out with right off the top, and it's Bo Nix and Mr. Nix. I request your apologies. I had him number 77 on my board last year. I thought
kind of surprised you had him that high.
Honestly, me too. It was. I just checked it and I was like, "Wow, really? That doesn't sound right." But I thought his ceiling was limited. I thought he had hit that ceiling in college with all the experience that he had. Now, granted, whenever he got drafted to the Broncos on draft night, that was the first time I was like, "Oh, I'm going to end up being wrong here, aren't I?" Because it just makes sense. Him and Sean Payton, that's a good marriage. And it worked out. So, Bo Nix, that's probably my first wrong. You want me to go all the way through here?
Yeah, do your 2 wrongs and then we'll come back around.
I'll go wrong, right. Okay, 2 wrongs. 2 wrongs. Shoot. I just had them and I closed out of it. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go all right. Sorry.
Okay, that's
get
fine.
off the page here. All right. My number 1 corner on my board, my number 8 overall player, Quinn Mitchell. And he was the third place guy for corner for all pro listing. So he just missed out being on an all pro team playing with the Eagles this last year. I really slammed the table for Quinn Mitchell. So I'm glad it worked out for him. Number 8 overall player on my board.
Give me one and the other, Brian. 1 right, 1 wrong.
I was completely right about Brock Bowers. I had him as the 6th best player on my board.
He had a great year.
I was completely wrong, much like with Nix. I was wrong about Drake May.
Oh.
Ooh. Drake May. I had Drake May at 28, but should have been a lot higher. We all had those defensive linemen all shoved up there. Excuse me, those offensive tackles. Excuse me,
there were
all
a ton of offense
shoved up at the top of the board. I think the guy to me, because like I say, when you start to talk about where Drake May or Nix should have been, I had Dallas Turner, the Alabama edge, at 12. That's a wrong.
Yep,
right there. So
I didn't realize you had him that high.
Yeah, that's where I had him. So I felt like for the most part, these quarterbacks, I kind of missed on them that way. I did rally with my quarterback, though. I had Jane Daniels at 4. So, kind of, you kind of got it. Some of these are going to be good. Also, Brian Thomas was another one that I had right on my board as well. So,
where did he go to school?
LSU.
Oh, okay.
But I have a really good feel for these LSU
Tigers.
receivers, when they come out and what they can do. But yeah, those 2 quarterbacks, Drake May and Bo Nix, I did not give them nearly enough credit in this this past draft.
What do you think, Zach?
Right. I think we could go with Cooper Beebe. That one ended up hitting pretty hard there here locally in Dallas. He's your starter for the next decade. And he definitely is a guy that slid in at center and was pretty good as a rookie. Do I still think as a guard the dude could end up being an all-pro? I do. As a center, I think he's going to be a good, steady player for you. There were moments. I think we all, like some of the penalties, a couple of snaps went a little bit high. But overall, for a rookie center who played the position for his first year, I think Cooper Beebe was a big-time hit. You guys know my affinity for him in last year's draft.
Just to back you up, of all rookie offensive linemen who with at least 400 snaps, he had the 2nd lowest pressure rate.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think Barton was up there as well. I mean, Barton, I had him really, really high, and he ended up having a good year.
Could you have gone Cooper and Cooper? Where'd you have Cooper DeJean?
DeJean, I had 20th best player.
Yeah, there you go. See,
fun.
to me, that's a right. I know I had him at 29. He was one of the guys I was considering as a right.
Yeah,
with being at 29.
It was tough because the secondary player I missed the most on was probably Bullock from USC, who ended up having a fantastic year with the Texans. The thing for me was I wanted to play him at corner.
Yeah,
I thought with his size, his ball skills, I was like, you know what? I don't know that I want to play him at safety. I thought he looked way too skinny. I didn't love his ability to be able to fill and get physical in the run. He had a hell of a year. I mean, the ball skills translated.
Oh,
I saw that.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that, I didn't get the evaluation completely wrong, but I had him way too low. 97th best player, and he was on a lot of all-rookie teams when you look at it, like at least a second-team member. He was a fantastic player this year.
No, that's a good one. Tommy, do you want to go with yours?
Yeah, so I wasn't on the draft show, obviously, last year.
Of course.
But Scout's honor here in terms of what in terms of my rights and
it's
my
just
wrongs.
not on recording. It's
right,
fine.
Exactly. I was right about Mike Sainer still from Michigan. I thought he played really well in the slot. Yeah, sorry, Nick.
Were you right about him too, Nick?
Yeah, I was literally about to talk about him. It's fine.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Mike Sainer still from the slot corner from Michigan, who played really well for Dan Quinn and that defense, out in Washington this year. He was one of those guys where, and Nick and I have talked about this a couple of times when we've watched guys even this year, where you just watch defensive backs play and you kind of say to yourself, like, man, it seems like Sainristil's making every single play when it comes his way. And there's a couple of guys in this class, too, that I think that of as well. So Mike Sainristil was one, and then Brock Bowers. I know that's kind of a layup.
Yeah.
Really, since his true freshman season at Georgia,
incredible player.
Bowers could have gone pro. The dude is just ridiculous. So he's going to be an all-pro contender for the rest of his career, I think.
What were you saying?
Go ahead, Zach.
No, you're good. Keep going.
On the flipping over to the wrongs, Adonai Mitchell from Texas breaks my heart.
Are you copying my paper over here? Man.
I'm not.
Mitchell.
Tommy, you're not alone. I had Mitchell at 21 on my board.
I thought Mitchell should have gone before Worthy. I thought he was the better of the two wide receivers out of Texas that year.
I don't think you were alone in that regard.
I know.
I missed on him as well.
He was just fantastic at Texas when you look at the 50-50 balls and some of the stuff he was able to do.
Was he banged up? Did he not play a whole lot? Or
it wasn't a banged up situation. It was just him not being able to get on the field. I had him 41 in the end, but I remember dropping him like the week of the draft because of character concerns. So I forget where exactly I had him, but I probably would have had him in that 20-ish range.
I do remember the character concerns being a conversation. Yeah. That's unfortunate because he was a good player in college. What were your other wrongs?
Yeah, my last wrong was Jaden Daniels. I thought this was going to be just a complete whiff, and that was really bad. Sorry.
Yeah, Brian.
Sorry
we nailed Jaden Daniels.
You nailed
5, baby.
I wasn't sold, and I'm sold now, so I apologize.
I thought Jaden Daniels was Anthony Richardson, so I was wrong on him too.
It's all right, Bobby.
I just saw one too many of those like Looney Tunes-esque hits that he took in college, where he would get hit and the ball would fly 15 yards in the air. He's doing a backflip after the contact, and I was just like, I don't know if he can hang around.
He got nailed pretty good the other night.
Yeah,
he can hang around.
The college film. I was like, wait, he's done a good job at avoiding those for the most part.
Why did you guys have Michael Penix?
I had Penix
52. I didn't love him.
I liked Penix. He was my third quarterback, but I had him at 30.
I had him at oh man, I was really high on Penix. I had him at 14.
I had him at 20.
Yeah, I had him at 14.
I was trying to think about that. How about Nate Wiggins has shown up too? The Clemson
Wiggins was
25
corner.
Yeah, this is honestly a little surprising for me just because of how slender he is.
Yeah.
But you factor in that he went to the Ravens. They're so great at developing defensive backs.
Yeah,
it makes sense why he had a good year. But
I had him at 15.
Nice.
So I was kind of thinking.
Nice.
And okay, somebody tell me how Byron Murphy played.
I can give you some specifics.
He was up and down.
He didn't get on the field a ton compared to some of these other first round guys. Like Jerzon Newton had a lot more
time. Yeah.
A lot more time.
See, I had Murphy ahead of Newton.
Same. Yeah.
Byron Murphy played 450 snaps. I mean, he played. He had 21 pressures, 1 sack, 21 tackles as well. So
okay, 14th overall player? Probably not.
No,
right?
I had him at 9. I had him even higher than you did. But Fisk, I hit on. I had Fisk at 26.
That's a good one.
And he was brilliant. I mean, he led all rookie D linemen with 51 pressures on the year. I mean, I don't know. Fisk to me seemed like an easy one to look at and be like, this dude's going to be a badass.
I got one more for you. I got one more. And where I have him is, I don't know if it's right, and I think he should be a lot higher. How about Jared Verse from Florida State?
Good.
I had Verse at 18.
What'd you have at 15?
18.
18. I'm at 10.
Should have him at like.
You should have had him at like 3.
Should have been top 5.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I had him at 14.
And you know who Jared Verse is in this draft? That Carter kid from Penn State.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh yeah.
If you want a comparison of a,
I think Carter's got a little bit more finesse. That's no discredit to Verse. I just think he has more power.
Yeah.
But it's
seeing Jared Verse live was eye opening for me.
Oh,
those Rams practice.
Yeah.
Holy jeez, I'm like, all right, why did I not have this guy higher?
You and I were in the middle of training camp live.
Yeah.
We were on training camp live, and Brian almost cussed on the microphone. He was like. Had to stop whenever we were in the middle of it. He was incredible.
Well, last name I could throw around, Ladd McConkey. Where'd you guys have him?
McConkey, I was trying to get McConkey in the first round. I had him at 28.
I had him in the second. I had a 29 overall.
Okay.
Oh, let me look.
But I had a second round grade.
It's not going to be where it needs to be.
Yeah, I had him at 36, and he probably should have.
See, I had Ricky Pearsall like at 61, so I
had
know
him way down there.
And I like Pearsall more than McConkey, and I bet you I have. It's getting bad now. I'm going down the list.
It's getting bad.
It's getting way bad.
See, and this is what's fun about reliving all of this work that we did last year. You know,
Bucky Irving.
Yeah, Bucky was one of my hits.
Definitely hit on Bucky.
Bucky was definitely one of my hits.
Yeah, you didn't talk about him.
I know I didn't. Well, I was circling back for the one right, one wrong. But yeah, Bucky Irving, that was one that I slammed the table for hard. I was hoping this team picked him, but he had a good year.
The one guy that I'm proud of that I got right is Dominic Pooney, the guard from that ended up in San Francisco. He was out of Kansas. I had a second-round grade for him, and initially people wanted to put him at tackle. I wanted to move him to guard. He ended up being a top 10 Pro Football Focus grade among all rookies.
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't have him bad. I'm at 45.
Pooney?
No. Well,
Conkey.
Yeah.
Oh, you just missed him.
Yeah.
You're okay.
It's 45. Oh,
could have been a little bit better.
I had him right behind Fisk.
You were like 80, 81?
Oh, no.
You needed to jump both those guys about
How did Jaden Hicks from Washington State to safety play?
Great question. I don't even remember where he got drafted.
Man, I know my guy Bullard did start all
Kansas
year for Green
City.
Bay.
He played 330 snaps, Brian. Back half of the year, mostly free.
All right.
Didn't really do much numbers-wise. Yeah.
43rd player right there.
I think the two guys consensusly we can all take a victory lap on was Peyton Wilson.
Yes.
He's good. Yeah. And then when we got to see Isaac Guerrero, I felt like he was a darling in the draft show.
One.
We all liked him. Isaac Guerrero performed.
Yeah, he was good.
And shout out to Ray Davis with the Bills.
Yeah, I had him at 107 on Ray Davis. I remember that one.
I was 89 on Ray Davis. I had a little crush on him.
Matt Gonsalves, the guard from Pitt. Yeah. That was a 30-visit guy. And then what about Max Melton? I know you guys were high on him. I was not. I had him wrong.
The corner?
I had a fourth. Yeah, he was corner 10 for me. He was a fourth-round grade. He ended up starting and playing 600 total snaps. Had a lot of time with Arizona as a
I had him at 59.
Pick. Yeah, see, I had him in like the 120s.
I had him at 130. I was not a fan.
Yeah, okay, so you and I are in the same boat.
Flagged all the time at the next level. He was a grabber.
I don't think he got flagged a ton, so we'll see.
Oh, I think I maybe found my biggest miss.
Oh, what was it?
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
Malachi Corley. Whew. Yeah, this one's rough.
What'd you have him?
Hold
12?
on. I had him at 44, and he had 3 receptions for 16 yards this year. But also he played for an awful franchise. So
that one play where he fumbled or did he drop the ball at the goal line?
Yes.
Was it?
Right.
Yeah, before his first career touchdown?
Well, Javon Baker, the touchdown maker, didn't make us look really good this year. I had him at 71. I don't think that guy had a catch, maybe.
You just take all that UCF love and bottle it up into R.J. Harvey.
Yeah, there it is. R.J. Harvey.
I'll tell you a Cowboy draft pick that made me look bad is Maris Leofau.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, if you want to, I was not too particularly happy with when Maris Leofau got picked. I'm looking at my top two on my.
Where'd you have him?
At 188 out of 215.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's a bad miss.
I had him at 95, so I felt pretty good about that one. Yeah. Ben Sanat was one that I had really high. I had him as a top 60 player. He had finished with 5 catches for 28 yards for Washington.
Yeah, I was pretty low on him just because I didn't know where to play him. But TJ Tampa, I was super high on.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he did this year. I had him at 37 on my board.
TJ Tampa?
Yeah, top second-round corner, right behind the top 3 guys, Arnold, Mitchell, and
Iowa State kid, right?
Too.
He played.
I love TJ Tampa.
TJ Tampa played a total of 18 snaps all year.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's rough.
Hey, we're still holding out hope for our guys, okay?
We like our guys. All right. Fun exercise. If you guys did your own research last year, tweet at us. Let us know who were your rights and who were your wrongs. Who'd you hit on? Who did you miss on?
This is a humbling experience.
It is. It's really, we got a lot of work left to do going into the draft. Well, because of that, we've got some names that have recently declared for the draft. I want to talk through a couple of these names, including one that played quarterback in the Cotton Bowl recently. When we come back right after this with more of the Draft Show.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion. When I played in the NFL at a high level, I relied on my vision to see the field. As I started getting older, I noticed my vision wasn't as good, and I was getting frustrated from wearing my glasses all day. I went to Laser Care Eye Center, and Dr. G talked about all the options. Thanks to technology and Laser Care Eye Center, I can see near, far, and between. Don't fumble your vision any longer. Visit them at dfweyes.com and tell them Darren sent you. They got me back on my game.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Here we go. Tyler from Dude Perfect here. Big news. We just dropped our very own Dude Perfect smoothie with Smoothie King.
We is strong. It's my recipe.
Technically, we all came up with it, Kobe?
I mean, you put a potato in yours.
I was experimenting.
Yeah, we picked up on that. Guys, this is fruit smoothie perfection. I even heard it recently quoted that it was food perfect.
Yeah, I was the one that said that.
Oh, that's funny. It's punny.
Thank you. Anyways, get the Dude Perfect smoothie only at Smoothie King.
My smoothie.
How about them Cowboys? Or how about them Tyson Cowboys Nuggets? As we cheer for the stars on the field, we love that we've also got some stars on our plate, thanks to Tyson brand star-shaped Cowboys Nuggets. That, along with all our other favorite Tyson Foods products, sure make game day special. Score some delicious Tyson Cowboys Nuggets and become a game day star, just like our Cowboys. As you enjoy your stars on and off the plate, remember, tailgates and game day have always been Tyson.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show, come out to AT&T Stadium on February 22nd for the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship Series. Watch the world's best two-wheel racers converge for one night of nonstop action. Enjoy unprecedented access to the sport's biggest stars and an up-close view of their race bikes and the team rigs at FanFest. Tickets are on sale now at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing partner of AT&T Stadium. Nick Harris, huge Supercross fan.
Yeah.
Big time.
Can I say something real quick? I know we had this discussion yesterday about Walker, the edge rusher.
Yeah.
A scout that listens to our show. It's not a scout from this football team.
Uh-oh.
Scout from another team.
We love you.
And he got into our discussion about Walker, that we thought he was an edge.
Mm-hmm.
And this is his area. And he goes, listen, I like this kid a lot. Super kid. He's an inside linebacker for me on first and second down and a sub put wherever you want. Can't live with him as a full-time edge rusher. And I said, not an edge. Get too wore down was my question to him. And he said, too short. He's 6'0", He just will get outsized. He's a chess piece is what you would do. He said, he was talking about that, move him around like what they do with Micah kind of thing. But he says if you play him at full-time edge, he felt like that he was get really wore down in his game. So I did that. Like I say, he was just driving around listening to our show. And because he said, hey, I heard you guys were talking about Walker, and this is how I would look at it. Now, we could all say, no, he's an edge and all that, but it is an interesting thing to think about him being 6'1.5", and maybe playing full-time edge.
Yeah,
if that's what we think.
I saw him in person yesterday, and the length was the lack of length was something I noticed.
Okay, it stood out.
And I was like, okay, he looks a little slender. There's not a ton of length there. Let me wait a couple of weeks, let his body get back from bouncing back from the season, and let me reevaluate there. But I do like his lower half. But I did notice that his length wasn't what I thought.
I just wondered, when there's several guys like that we're going to look at, because you watch him play at Georgia, there's no question he can rush the passer.
Oh, yeah.
But do you want him doing it full time? I think that's something now that and you know what, if he might be a guy at 12 that this football team would consider. So I think you have to study up on we need to dig a little further what other teams, or maybe what this team is thinking about him as an edge. Because I know I popped in and you guys caught me and I went edge, and then I'm like, but you and I talked about it.
We've just because I think he's an edge. I don't see the athleticism to be able to play off ball in the NFL.
Right.
But you did argue you wanted him as a linebacker.
I thought initially as a linebacker, but I didn't think of it for the reasons that the scout told me for.
Yeah.
I just was thinking, off-ball linebacker, it seems to kind of work out. But I just wanted to present that after yesterday. But shout out to the scout that listens to us as he's driving around.
No, and that's super insightful. If you guys hear anything like that, it's always good to share, because now that information's out there.
We need to figure out how the Cowboys evaluate him.
Sure.
We need to think about, if through our back channels or whatever we have to do, are you looking at Walker as a linebacker, or are you looking at him as an edge?
Well, the Cowboys need to figure out what the Cowboys are evaluating.
Exactly. Yeah. For sure.
That's a good one. All right, some of these guys that are working their way out. I teased Quinn Urie and what he brings as a quarterback prospect in this class. Tommy, you spent some time covering Quinn throughout his career. Where does he fit in this quarterback class? Because it's not a strong quarterback class to begin with. I think we've all kind of agreed on that. There are some names at the top, but it's not necessarily the same depth of quarterback class that we've talked about in the past. Where would you put Ewers at this point in time?
Ewers is around QB3, QB4 for me in this draft, and I think part of that is a testament to it's not necessarily the strongest class, but this is a guy that I've watched every start of his since his freshman season at Texas, and you look at the touch that he's able to put on some of these balls and how just easy he makes it look in terms of the motion and getting the ball out of his hands. He can operate an RPO offense, and he's made some wow plays over the course of his career. The only problem is when he gets pressured, he turns to stone. It's almost like everything collapses in front of him and he doesn't know what to do sometimes. He did a better job, I think, this last year of stepping up at certain points, but then, he's got the ankle injury and the oblique injury, and so I think once those things happened later on in the season as the year progressed, he was a little bit more hesitant to step up really confidently. I thought the best tape that he put out was against Michigan back in week 2.
Yeah.
He was slinging it all over the field.
That Gunnar Helm touchdown pass was beautiful.
Beautiful. And he's had a lot of those throws where it's good touch, it's into a tight window, and he's able to make those wow plays. But at the same time, it's that pocket presence that worries me, and there are still some times where you just kind of scratch your head with some of the decisions that he makes. But all in all, I think that there's a lot that you can work with there. I just think that he needs time. Throughout his entire career, Quinn Ewers has kind of rushed himself into everything. You think about from high school going to Ohio State, he leaves his senior year, so he goes a year early, one of the first big NIL names once that became legal. Then doesn't work out there, so he comes to Texas. He's instantly thrown into the fire, and he's tasked with basically rejuvenating a program that had been in the dumpster for the better part of 2 decades. And I think he would greatly benefit from sitting down, and if he finds the right fit, from just sitting, learning the offense, getting the time to develop, work out those things that need to get worked out, whether it be pocket presence, whether it be, I'm not saying he has bad football IQ, but decision making, and then I think he can develop into a pretty solid
Tommy, you
player.
think he sees the field well? Or is that an issue? And I wonder this because I watched Bo Nix at Auburn look awful. And then I watched him go to Oregon, and it seemed like he got things kind of turned around, but I wasn't as high on him as I needed to. But if it's Quinn, does his problem seeing the field, or is it just that he just doesn't have a feel for how to move to keep his eyes down the field?
I think it's the movement problem that he doesn't quite get how to move around in the pocket.
Like Joe Burrow will duck. We've seen Joe Burrow duck, like he feels it, and he'll compress and then kind of find his way out of it and then make a throw.
He may have the best pocket presence in the NFL, though.
He might.
Across
Joe Burrow?
He might. Yeah, Burrow. Yeah. That's like a high expectation.
Seriously, I mean, he'll put both hands on the ball and just dip his shoulder and then kind of find a way to get through, and then he ends up on the other side.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, with Ewers, it seems like when the pressure is on him, and I wonder if it's just he's too locked on to what's going on down the field. That's kind of where
he gets a little happy feet, and that's where you see the balls start to sail on him a little bit.
And the footwork has been an issue since day one with Ewers. Is that when his feet have rarely been set on some of these bad throws that you see. And it was a real problem his freshman season where he would just be all over the place. And sure, you would get those wow throws like, oh my God, how did he get that all the way down the field? Then you have some plays where he's just throwing it right to a defender. So
coachable guy?
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
okay.
there's without no question there.
There's been some success with those guys in the league,
right? Yeah, and I think if we're talking about the mental aspect too, I think this is a guy who doesn't get enough credit for being a good leader.
Yeah.
You think about the stuff that was thrust on this guy's shoulder with Arch Manning sitting right behind you, kind of knocking on that door, and he's still got guys to come and play for him, and he still operated the Steve Sarkisian offense really well. Again, there's going to be a lot of work that has to be done for it to translate to the NFL level. But back to your question, I think movement in the pocket is where it stems, because Burrow's got the length in that bottom half. Ewers doesn't have as much of that, and the duck and turn and all that
seems stiff.
Ewers,
seems really stiff in the pocket.
If that happens, he just collapses and he just takes the sack.
And the injuries, like has he had a season where he's been healthy?
Not since his sophomore year of high school. and he took a hit.
That's wild.
He took a hit from Dallas Turner in his sophomore year in the second game of the season that I think changed how he handles pocket pressure. And I don't feel like he's ever handled pressure the same since then.
That guy's a bust, so we can't necessarily talk about it.
Yeah, it was in the second quarter, and he got hit on it was a 1st and goal, and they dropped back to pass.
Changed the whole game.
And it changed the whole game. And
maybe he
landed on his AC joint, but he's dealt with an oblique strain, ankle sprain, AC joint in both shoulders, sports hernia, groin injury in high school that kept him out for most of his senior year. But yeah, injuries are a concern. But I comped him to Brock Purdy in the sense that he if he finds the right fit, then it can work out for him, especially if he has weapons. And I think he gives you enough to be able to work with. I mean, when you talk about his touch, his arm angle, precision, decision making, when he's not under pressure, I think he's QB2 in this class. But you factor everything in, I have him at QB7.
Where should we have drafted Brock Purdy?
Oh, who was in that class?
Purdy had.
I'm just saying
first round.
That's what I'm saying. Brock Purdy went
Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant to
should have been a first-round pick.
Should have been a first-round pick, right?
Let me look at the other quarterbacks that went in that draft.
I think the perfect fit for Quinn is the Rams. I think if he can go to a place like Los Angeles, work under McVay, and take a couple years behind Matthew Stafford, I think that'd be the perfect fit for Quinn Urie.
Here's the other quarterbacks in that draft class with Brock Purdy: Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Carson Strong, Sam Howell, Desmond Ritter, Bailey Zappi, Jack Cohn, Skylar Thompson, E.J. Perry. You get the point.
Oh my God!
He should have gone. He should have been the first one off the board.
Well, ahead of Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wonder how the Steelers would be feeling right now if they had to get Brock Purdy.
It would be it would have been it would have been Pittsburgh.
I think the thing about the fact that Quinn Ewers has played in a lot of games similar to what Brock Purdy. I mean, Brock Purdy was a 4-year guy, right? I mean, all those starts that he got, and you kind of like Iowa State, you're thinking, oh, they got a couple of guys. They had a runner, they had a receivers. I mean, they've had some guys. But, man, I mean, it's not a star-studded lineup by any means. That guy, but he played a lot of games, got a lot of experience, won a lot of games. Yeah, that's very similar. I think that's a really good comparison to Quinn Ewers.
No, I like it a lot. I just don't like his decision-making. He was offered a scholarship to North Texas in the 8th grade, and he turned it down. I think that's a bad decision. He could have already won a Heisman.
Should have taken it.
He would have at least won at least a national championship if he would have gone there. All right, some of the other names that have recently declared: Nick Emanwari from South Carolina, safety.
Yeah, I'm glad that you've brought him up, Jeff.
Okay. What do you want to? Why are you glad we talked about
this guy? I was wondering what everyone else thought about him because I'm watching him and I'm like, okay, dude looks like an NFL safety. He's checking off all the physical boxes. He moves pretty well. I like the back pedal. He's smooth. And then I'm watching him come up and run support, or just any time a play is leaking out towards him, and I'm seeing a bit of a timid guy.
Oh no,
a guy that doesn't really want the smoke when it comes to contact. Now he's going to be Senior Bowl invite. And, he played middle linebacker in high school. Yeah. So I didn't anticipate watching his film and thinking like the physical aspect of it would be a question. Clear communicator in the secondary. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's getting everybody lined up. He's an interchangeable safety. I think he can play both strong and free. Good feel for zone coverage. Most of his interceptions came in zone coverage where he's dropping off. But I just didn't see a very physical player. I wanted more violence at the strike point. I want him to come up and hit somebody. That's the difference between him and Malachi Starks. Mm-hmm. I saw a lot of Twitter scouts were trying to compare the two. That's what sets them apart from me. Malachi Starks, now there are some games, first half against Alabama, and then when you watched him against Notre Dame, there are times where he can miss some tackles, can take some poor angles. I don't think he's a surefire, perfect prospect, but there's a big gap between Starks and the way he comes up and run support and Emanwari from South Carolina for me.
I'd take Xavier Watts of Notre Dame over this cat.
I agree.
I mean, I think, Wooly, I think you nailed this guy, the South Carolina kid, because there's snaps you see him take poor angles, he'll overrun the ball, the size, the frame. I mean, he should be a much better tackler, but that will come and go with and the length. But he needs to get some of this area of his game buttoned up. He should be more of a force, but he really struggles with that at times. And at 6'3", 227, my gosh, he has that look of a guy that should be playing a lot better. But I'll take Xavier Watts from Notre Dame over this guy all day.
You said he was going to be a Senior Bowl guy?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a Senior Bowl invite.
Watching the Texas A&M game where South Carolina upset them in, if you want to call it an upset, in Columbia, I fell in love with him and Urie. I think with his size, he can move so well.
Oh, there's no
he can
question.
flip his hips like he's 6 foot, damn near 5'10".
Yeah.
Throw him at free. I don't need him to tackle. I just need him to use that length to get in the way of passing.
And you know what? That's where talking about accountability, I was wrong about Bullock on that. Yeah. I cared more about how would he do physically in the run. Maybe I shouldn't care as much if you're going to play him at free safety because he does have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
You liked his footwork a lot?
I did.
See, I kind of felt like that it was a little bit all over the place, with him. And like you said, I didn't think he was the smoothest when it came to backpedaling. I felt it was kind of because he's a big guy. Maybe it doesn't
for his size.
For his size. Okay, I see what you're doing here. Okay, ball skills are really, really good though.
Yeah.
He's got the ability with the ball skills to compete on the back end for sure.
Well, what about Jad Campbell, another guy that you've probably gotten a chance to watch so far? Any of those names stick out?
Yeah, he sticks out to me. I think he's as one of the best linebackers in this class. The guy from Alabama, 55 tackles for them this year. It's a kind of top-heavy class, I think. Barrett Carter from Clemson, the other guy who's been around. An interesting name, too, to add to that. Smile London from Georgia. But no, I like Jad Campbell a lot. I think he's one of the better guys.
Is that how you say his name? Smile?
Smile London.
It's not Smile, it's Smael.
That's how I've heard it pronounced.
I think that's how it is.
That's how I've heard it pronounced on broadcast.
On the broadcast before? Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Man, we're in trouble.
I'll tell you what about Jad Campbell.
We'll figure it out eventually, Brian. Don't worry. We got some time. Got 100 days.
I'll still get it wrong.
Jad Campbell, tackling machine.
Yeah.
Always finds himself at the ball. Physical. He'll get you. He'll get a couple flags because of how physical he is. But I'll take that.
He had 2 flags in that Auburn game that I called, and one of them was unnecessary roughness on a defenseless receiver.
Yeah,
dude. That might have been the loudest hit I've ever heard in stadium, and the windows were closed in front of me. It was an unbelievable hit.
I almost made a really
physicality.
bad joke.
You could have. Really, really physical linebacker.
Well, now I got to know.
That was my number one.
I will say this, though. Yeah, the thing about him is, he is a great-looking kid. You guys are right about it.
Physically.
When he runs under blocks, he'll get into trouble. So keep an eye on that. As you're watching the tape, you're like, man, I'm seeing him. Like, it seems like he's kind of running under him, and then the ball goes the opposite direction, man. But he could be a force. He's got some pop. He knows how to play coverage. There's an interception he makes in the Georgia game that's really, really pretty. So
edge.
6'3", 245.
He stepped up this year, had 5 sacks.
Yeah.
He had half a sack the first 2 years. Maybe he showed a little bit of that.
Question.
I like the growth there. He finally showed some pass.
He's 6'3".
Oh no,
he can 6'1".
He can set the edge.
Yeah,
he can set the edge. So that's a possibility there.
I don't know,
with him.
Though. He's got so much downhill ability that I'm reluctant.
Off ball, but at times
I think
I would too.
Yeah, situationally.
You play him at edge?
No, I play him off ball.
I got you. Yeah.
Just throwing the question out there.
Yeah.
Just dropping a little
Duly
hint.
noted.
Last one of the recent commitments, Jaylen Kimber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you got on him there.
A Mansfield kid ended up going to Penn State, and I love what he brings at the corner position. I think he's going to be a guy that rises during the draft process. He's got the ideal build size that you want at corner. I love his coverage ability. When you look at some of these games that Penn State has played against good passing offenses this past season, you typically find Jaylen Kimber around the ball, you typically find Jaylen Kimber not around the ball because they're not throwing it to him. I like Jaylen Kimber. I think this is a guy you're not hearing about right now, but you're going to as the process goes on.
Interesting. That's a good name to keep an eye on. I had him way down the list. I haven't looked at him yet.
Bobby was right about that linebacker from UCLA, by the way.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Did you watch him last night?
Yeah.
What did you think about him?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this kid was a walk-on real quick, and he doesn't have a lot of bulk. How do you pronounce his last name?
That's another tough. Let me see if I can get a phonetic
Wissinger?
Swessinger.
Yeah. Swessinger. He's Carson Swessinger from UCLA. He's 6'2", he's 225. This guy doesn't miss tackles. He had 153 of them, and I was watching this game, USC, Fresno, Washington. He is really, really impressive because he plays downhill. He, like I say, he was a walk-on, and he got a scholarship because he's a really good special teams player. He had 4 sacks. Bobby's like, I found my I found my overshown, and I'm like, yeah, sure, right. You found overshown.
Yeah,
Bobby's not wrong. This guy is high IQ, high intensity. He does a great job as rushing the passer. He sniffs out blocking assignments and stuff like that, and he's right there. So yeah, keep an eye on this kid from UCLA as far as a linebacker that can play off the ball, can pass rush, play on special teams, and also play in coverage. This guy's he's gonna probably start off on special teams and then get sub package work and then bam, take off from there. But at 6'2", 225, you're gonna probably be a little scared of the size. But it seemed like he made every single tackle on a UCLA team that really, really wasn't all that great.
He's projected to be about a 4.7 guy. So
I know it's crazy, but he plays so much faster than that.
Yeah,
it's like a third-round guy, on my book there.
It's interesting. Is this a good linebacker class in general? I haven't
seen enough of
linebacker.
I don't think so.
I haven't seen enough of.
I mean, like we're looking at a guy like Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma, and that's just a guy that's
sound like you don't like Danny Stutzman.
I mean, he's instinctive and makes a ton of tackles, but like, is he going to translate to the NFL? He might just be a special teams D.
Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of them.
Nick and Tommy both just looked disgusted.
Well, I mean, Tommy from a Texas standpoint, he's an Oklahoma City. I expect nothing less.
Be subjective.
He was an outstanding college player. All right, that dude deserves his praise, but I don't know that that's going to translate to being an NFL starter necessarily. He's probably a day 3 pick anyway.
Can I give you a linebacker to go home and watch? When we come back,
please
we reconvene
do.
on Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon. This is
okay.
This is one
6'2",
inside,
235.
Yeah, inside, and is also a tackling machine. Always finds himself at the ball. You talk about Oregon's defense this last year. He was the reason for that. He's the leader of that group. So
okay,
give me Bassa.
Jacob Parrish. Did you see him yesterday?
Did see him yesterday.
Okay,
yeah.
Jacob Parrish from K-State.
He can fly.
This dude might end up winning the combine.
Yeah.
Okay, at the 40. But this guy, I was watching him last night because Bobby's like, I saw him today. You need to give him a look. Jacob Parrish can ball now. He's kind of got everything you look for. 5'10", right? Not necessarily the tallest guy in the world, but I think he's got longer arms than that. The frame's okay. But Jacob Parrish, the recovery speed is elite with him. He can run with everybody, can be a little physical. I like Jacob Parrish. He's a guy to go home and watch as well.
Yeah, short guys from Kansas State,
Yeah, I mean, Zach's all for those guys. That's what he got right last year.
I'm about K-State Wildcats, all right?
Yeah. There's no question about that.
The running back, that might be my pet cat running back this year too. 4th round, 5th round.
I saw him yesterday. He looked a little slender, but he's longer than I thought.
He is a big boy.
He's got some
tall.
length.
He does. Can catch the ball out of the backfield, good in between the tackles, runner, has some juice, can finish. I'm a fan of his game as well. Devin Neal from Kansas. Yep. That guy's a little bowling ball as well.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
I liked his junior year a little bit more.
Much better?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think
same
Kansas
thing with like
as a
Ollie
whole would
Gordon.
just like that junior season more than they liked this year. The quarterback, same thing.
I want to talk. We could spend a whole show on running backs. In general,
absolutely could,
because this is a deep class and there's some question marks. I think Ollie Gordon for me is one of the more interesting pieces because he was a badass his junior year. Could have been a bad team. 1st or 2nd round pick, and then ended up being just a dud his final season. And
what happened there, real quick? What
offensive line?
Bad. So this is literally the notes I put. Suffered behind bad offensive line in 2024. Does he need an offensive line to succeed? The streets are saying.
Ooh,
the streets are saying.
But I love his power and downhill ability. I think it's worth spending a day 2 pick on if it gets to that point. I mean, he's a big boy. Euless Trinity guy, by the way. DFW. Shout out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Was a great player, Euless Trinity. Outside of NFL circles, some people are saying that he would be a mid-day 3 pick. Which I just don't see yet. I'm not there yet.
I think he'd draw. Yeah, I don't know. There's too many. I'd take Trayvon Henderson over him. Ohio State.
Yeah,
I would probably do that.
That's fair.
That's a fair assessment.
That Tennessee kid's for real.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Samson. Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Hey, Tennessee backs. You don't have to tell me on Tennessee backs. I loved me some Jalen Wright last year.
Yep. What about Caleb Johnson from Iowa too?
Caleb Johnson's the number 2 back in the class, absolutely. But there is a drop
over a Marion Hampton.
Yeah, he's better than Hampton.
Yeah, I like
Johnson's better than Hampton.
Hampton is DeMarco Murray.
Hampton.
You like Johnson more?
I have Johnson over.
I think Johnson's better.
Who is Johnson then?
But who would Johnson be? That's a good question.
Emmitt Smith, apparently.
DeMarco Murray's not bad.
Genty gives me some Emmett vibes.
He does.
Genty runs like Emmett.
I love it.
And I can't talk about that on our show because I'm going to get fought by Eric Giafalo.
Eric hates when we talk running backs.
Good Lord.
We cannot. We only talk about running backs when he's gone.
Yeah, he's there, and there's a drop off too.
Yeah,
like Genty's fantastic.
Yeah,
and then I know it's a deep running back class, but like there's levels to this. It's Genty and it's everybody else.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Let's not just pretend we can just. Not everybody's elite. Genty's elite.
I'm glad we got through our third episode of the draft show and we made sure to mention Ashton Genty again. So let's keep the streak alive. We'll talk about him again on Thursday, and we'll continue to reconvene as the year goes on. Officially 100 days away from the NFL draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
I'm having fun.
Yeah, this is good. We're getting rolling. It's still a long way away, but not that far. Not that far. Don't
100
sleep. 100 days. For Zach Wolchuk, Brian Broaddus, Nick Harris, Tommy Yarish, and Chris Beam in the back, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long for the draft show. We'll see you on Thursday.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!